So I did this last week. Yes, it was awkward at first. Here's what I did. I was down at a conference in Orlando, and it was a bunch of different schools who had come, well, other companies too, but I was with the schools, had come together to basically figure out how we were doing technology to solve some problems. So I was with a bunch of schools that didn't know anything about it. So at this one event, it was at Disney, and so they had one of the, you know how they do the fireworks, like at Epcot and everything at night. They had a private event where we got to eat dinner and then go sit in a place by ourselves around the lake to watch the Epcot fireworks. So I was walking over to where the fireworks were. I'm the only person from Liberty, so I know nobody other than people I met that week. And I'm walking in, and they were going to have desserts, and at these conferences, they always have open bars. So the company pays, and all these other people are like, this is awesome, I get to go get all this free booze, you know, whatever. And they network. That's what they call them, networking dinners or networking, you know, receptions or whatever. So I'm walking over to get into this thing. There are not very many tables, and I really was tired at this point, wanted to sit. And I saw a round table with about 5 chairs on it, and I'm heading towards it. At the same time, 4 people that knew each other came up from the other side. So now we have this awkward, oh, you were going here moment. But we realized there were 5 chairs and 5 of us. And I was like, well, may I join you? And they were like, absolutely, sit down. So now I'm at this really awkward table because there's 4 people that they all know each other, but I don't know anybody. Okay, suck it up, Connie, you're going to do this, we're going to network. This is what we're going to do. It turns out they were from Carnegie Mellon. Oh, so that's not intimidating. These are really, really brilliant people. Okay, so now we're sitting down at this table, and as we were kind of getting situated, I saw they had a coffee bar over at the side. I was like, sweet coffee. And I said, I'll be right back. I see coffee over there. I went over and got my coffee. I came back, and apparently they had been amused that I was at a free bar, and I went for coffee. And so the guy that was kind of the ringleader, kind of poking at me, he goes, we don't know if you can sit here or not. I mean, you're going after coffee. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, but you've never seen me after a couple coffees. And he started laughing, and he goes, you're going to fit in just fine. Have a seat. So the reason I tell that story is it was awkward. One, it was awkward to sit with people I didn't know. 2, it was very obvious we were there with very different mentalities. Oh, and yes, they're brilliant and all this. But it's a learned skill. And over these years, when I was really, really, really horrible about this years ago, I've actually learned to do this. I thought, do it, do it, do it. So I got to talk for about 45 minutes or so with these 4 people, and it was quite some interesting conversations. So make more acquaintances, and then participate in diverse circles. I think that one's really important. Don't just hang out with the same people that you always hang out with, plus their friends. So who could you hang out with? Think about it for a minute. Who could you hang out with that you go, that's not really a group I normally hang out with? Maybe you don't normally go to LaHaye and work out. Maybe you don't do this, maybe you don't. Think about places where you could go. Anything come to mind? A circle that you could go to that's not really where you normally go. Give me an answer.
Just like random events that Liberty has.
Good.
They always have small things going on.
Okay, so maybe there's some club meeting or some, movie night or whatever it is, but some kind of activity, and you go, I don't normally go there. If you really want to stretch yourself, go by yourself. Because now you have to meet somebody. Or, just as a baby step, take one friend with you and then hang out with them. Yes, sir?
There's always some events in Lynchburg. I've lived here for 21 years, and some of the events I never really went to because I never saw any interest in. And 2 weeks ago, I went to one. It was just kind of like a meet and greet with some of the companies downtown. I'm still looking for a summer internship, and I see one of the reporters from WSET and WDBJ7 just walking around with each other, and I by myself, and I kind of just smiled and was like, I'm gonna assert my way over here, and kind of just walked in on their conversation and started talking with them, and they both kind of presented opportunities for internships, and luckily gave me their emails, and I've sent them resumes and things for internships, and so it's kind of weird where you meet these people you wouldn't expect to meet.
I've heard people say that most people want to help you. If you go and say, could you help me with something? Hardly anybody's going to go, no. Now they may say, what is it? You ask for it, and they go, I can't really provide that. But most people want to help. Even strangers, usually. If you go, can you tell me what time it is? They're not going to go, no. They want to help, which is cool. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the book, The Tipping Point by Malcolm?
Yes.
It's just, I'm reading it right now, and you remember the connectors?
Yes.
That's
Where I figured out I was a connector. That book.
I think I am too, and I realized it because of that. And but it just makes you realize that anyone can be, or you can develop traits of a connector. And for anybody who hasn't read it, connectors are basically, it's a book about like why things catch on, why things just blow up, and why certain trends happen, or certain things get really popular. An idea will take over a culture. And there's 3 different types of people that help these things explode. There's connectors, something called a maven, which is like someone who knows a ridiculous amount of information about something and they love sharing with people. And then salesmen who just get behind an idea and they just pitch it all the time. And connectors are people that just know a lot of different people and they make connections. And so this circles thing, it was really interesting to me when he talked about there are these specific people that he interviewed that were connectors, and what he found was that they just had an incredibly diverse amount of experiences in their life. So they were involved in a lot of different things and different circles of people. And so this one guy who was like the connector, he knew so many people, he had so many different experiences. He wasn't really, because I think we imagine, oh, I have to be outgoing, and you don't have to be this extremely charismatic person who's just the life of the party all the time, but just somebody who enjoys talking to people. And he would just make small talk with anyone and get to know them. He had this list of, he would literally mail every single person he met a birthday card every year. That's a little over the top maybe. But yeah, I thought it was really cool to learn that, man, how can I get involved in different circles and then bridge the gap between those things, I think is really key.
I think you're spot on. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that you said that, Ron, because I think at Liberty, there are a lot of different subcultures. You have like different groups of people. And I found myself a lot of times becoming parts of different subcultures without really ever hanging out with those people outside of maybe like once a week. And so, so I was on a volleyball team, for example, and we really built this awesome connection, and I was able to kind of like hang out, really get to know a lot of people that are in that scene at Liberty, but I never hung out with any of them outside of playing volleyball. But if I saw them, I'd be like, yo, what up? And we were really good friends, and I felt like we had a great connection, but I was just like, I wasn't really close to any of them. Like I literally never really hung out with any of them. And I think it's cool how you can build connections and be able to become parts of different subcultures without actually becoming a part of it. You don't really have to invest yourself, 5 days a week into a group. You can just kind of hang out with them or just be friendly with them and really be able to kind of diversify that.
That's right. And then you become the connector because also you know what's happening in volleyball and you also know what's happening over here, and they were looking for somebody and that guy would be perfect and whatever. Perfect. Great examples. Yes.
I actually think there's kind of like almost a secret ingredient to networking that Christians understand a little more than other people, but I feel like sometimes in the professional world, people can be too cool for others, but Christians often are a lot more humble, and so like you can either go only sit with the cool kids, or you can talk to and be friends with everyone, no matter like their social status. And I feel like Christians are a little more like blind to like the who's cool and who's not thing, because when you are a connector and you're willing, like you're humble about like you're not like super arrogant and super prideful, then like you're willing to be friends with anybody. And I think once you're willing to bridge like social strata, whatever you want to call it, which is totally a thing in like the professional life, then you have so many more connections. And you're just a more real friend to them than simply being like a connection, if that makes sense.
It is. And that's funny because I think the people get off the top tier, people down here more appreciate everything you're doing.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yes.
Let's say I know when you want to make a connection, when I would meet with people like Liz, for example, I didn't know her last year at all, and I think I met you at an event one time, and we kind of just networked off each other. She tells me about the student at PR firm that's been here for like a year now, and I knew nothing about it, and automatically got involved with that with her, and that's how it's just being open to asking questions, I think, is another key. And I'm studying journalism, and so I always want to ask questions. And I've been best friends with a guy I went to high school with for almost 12 years now. I knew his dad was in the military, I knew all of that, but I started asking more questions about what he did, and he was former Secret Service and now has connected me to the White House correspondent, and me and him message back and forth about his job. And I think you just have to be willing to ask those tough questions and ask, like, what did you actually do? What were you working for? And I think if people know you're interested in what they did, they're going to be 10 times more willing to open up and say, you'd be great for this picture here. I know this person over here. And it opens up like a whole new world.
I think that is a great, we don't have time today, but if I were going to give tips for when it's kind of scary, what do I do about that? That's a great thing to say, is ask them questions and let them talk. People like to talk about themselves. And then be genuinely interested in it. Respond to it. Don't be back on your phone or whatever, but like actually having conversation. But if I'm asking you questions and I keep you talking, it makes me at ease. So that's a great one. All right, let's talk a couple more things. I put focus on who you are, and I don't mean be self-centered. What I mean by that is be genuine. So be who you are. When I sat down at that table with those 4 people, I didn't suddenly try to be, some hipster from, Carnegie Mellon. I couldn't have pulled that off. So what I'm going to do instead is be the jokester. That's it's okay. Yeah, you think I'm a little prudish from Liberty. That's okay with me. But let's have fun with it. Let's enjoy, whatever it is. People can tell in an instant when people are being fake. So if I come up with a fake smile and I go, hey, how are you today? I don't know what it is, but we can tell by the little, display all the nuances of the way we do our eyes and whatever, but you can tell. You know a fake smile, right? If I came and said, I'm going to pray for you, and you're like, yes, you can go pray for me. Right? We know this. We intuitively know this. So don't try to be somebody else. Just be who you are, but be sincere about the way you present yourself. And show value. If you remember nothing else I said today, this is the one I would highlight, show value. We think about, and you didn't necessarily just say this, but I just want to take you back to some of the things you're talking about. When we think about networking, we think about they might be my reference, they might give me connections, they might be my potential employer. Like, typically, we think about I'm going to network to see what I can get. That's a real common fallacy. We might not say it because that sounds really self-centered, but that's honestly where our mind goes. To say, I need to network with people because who knows, one of them might be my future boss. No, you might need to network with people because who knows, you might hire them someday. Or you might be able to connect them to someone for something. Or you might be able to help them with their math because they're struggling. Or you might be that listening ear because they're really hurting right now. How can you show value back? If you're genuine and you think of ways to give to other people, you will find people come to you. Make sense? All right. Justin knows this is one of my big ones. Develop trust. We've got a whole class going on right now, the whole semester we're talking about trust. That's why I'm laughing with him. But we don't have time to go into deep stuff, but if I trust you and you trust me, it's a different circle. When I talk about relationships, I want you to realize I could say, here's my circle, this is my closest people. These are the people that know me better than anybody. Then there's another circle, then there's another circle, and it gets bigger and bigger. Now, I know people in all these circles, but this one is not the same as this one. And I'm going to have much less trust out here than I do with this one. I don't walk up to this person, they go, how's it going? And I go, well, let me tell you. And for the next 20 minutes, I tell you all the problems in my life, and I don't know, you just think, dude, I was just saying hi. Right? But this person walks up, I might do that. I might say, I'm really hurting today. Can we go have coffee? And we could talk about it. So this is all different. And you have to think about that. Trust should be really high in these first couple of circles. Really high. Think about the different levels of people that you're networking with. Everybody you know on Facebook that knew somebody else on Facebook, that knew somebody else on Instagram, whatever, that's not a circle. That might be the part of the circle, but that's not the other circle. All right, so I put up here, many people are turned off by the topic of networking. We kind of talked about that briefly at the begining. Kind of get this idea of somebody sleazy coming up and just trying to see what's in it for them, and doesn't seem very genuine or whatever. I like this guy, tricks me. We kind of think that. So I'm going to give you a couple examples here. Picture the consummate networker. He's a high energy, fast talker who collects as many business cards as they can. Right? That's not really networking. That's the person, goes on Facebook and just, whatever, just hits everybody. That's not really networking. That's just adding a bunch of people to your list. That's not what I'm talking about. Or the overambitious college kids frantically emails alumni, moves with the board of trustees, adds anyone they've ever met to their online friend, just trying to add people. And don't give me names, but has anybody ever known somebody like that? Like all they're doing is just gotta add more names. I got lots of friends. Let me tell you how many friends I have. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people where you have a genuine relationship to varying degrees. Not everybody's gonna be your best friend, I get it, but people who you're going through that way. So I would say old school networking is very transactional. And what I mean by that is I give you a business card, you give me a business card, maybe I go, file it somewhere, maybe I don't, whatever. And it's just kind of, I did something for you, you did something for me. Instead, I would argue we need to talk about pursuing relationships. Not what other people can do for me, but what I can do for them. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
We talk about relationships, we don't keep scores, it's very biblical. Right? So I'm not saying, well, I don't know. I sent them 3 job interviews, they didn't send me anything. I invited them to 2 parties, I haven't been invited to anything. I'm not doing that. And I prioritize the relationships based on the circles we talked about. So maybe I say you're in my 3rd circle, what does that mean? I'm not saying you're keeping a tally, I need to see you once a month, and she shouldn't do it this month. But I'm starting to figure out, do I really care about this relationship? I have people I worked with in my old position that I haven't seen in a while. And we say periodically, you know what? This actually is an important relationship to me. Let's get together next week and talk for a little bit. And then we put it on the calendar and make it happen. Let's make sure we're doing that.
Would you say things like Facebook and Twitter, I do understand they are good for social networking, and I have used them to utilize it a little bit, but with our generation being the millennial generation that uses technology on a regular basis, would you say it's not as good as an in-person type of connection ordeal? Would you say it's hindering us maybe?
Well, I think you've been raised with it, and I think there's some interesting dynamics going on for you. I don't think it's just you, it's infiltrated even my generation, not to the same extent, because I wasn't raised with it, but it does infiltrate the way we talk. You led us right into the next conversation, is so the big elephant in the room is social media. Saying I'm gonna go sit with somebody at dinner and meet somebody and whatever is kind of in that old thought. Now what do I do with all this? When I get to social media, the way I think of it is you've got layers. Most people think, or this is what I've heard from everybody, Facebook is for my closest friends if I use it at all. So where I might be okay if Liberty University's admissions department followed my Twitter or Snapchat or whatever else, I might think, hey, that's kind of cool, they're following me. I might think that you're creepy if they're following me on Facebook. This is what I've heard from students. So we kind of think of this is kind of that inner circle. This is this. Then we get up to things. What's your favorite social media? Somebody. Instagram. Okay.
Twitter.
All right. So I'm going to say Instagram, Twitter, whatever. We get into ones that are a little bit. We tend to. It's less about a circle. See, this tends to be. I'm going to put pictures and kind of be with my little circle of people that we're chatting back and forth and whatever. Twitter, at least for me, what I see is more like I'm going to post something I just want you to see. So it's just a little less personal. And so when I get into that, I'm okay with you doing this, not okay with you coming in here. So I might be okay with seeing you in the hallway at Liberty, not really okay with the fact that you're walking up, the sidewalk of my house. And I go, oh, what's going on? It's just a little too close. Same thing with body language. If I came up and I said, hey, how are you today? All of a sudden you're like, whoa. We do that. We do it socially. We do it on this. I like being with you, but at some point you're too close. So what I think students need to do, which is this, is be smart. Realize, yes, everybody, and you've heard that lecture 1,000 times, everybody can see what you put on Facebook, whether you are, and I'm picking on Facebook, I'm probably not putting it on Facebook, but whatever. People can see what you're putting on your social media, whether you want them to or not, unless you're marking it all private, people can see it. So yes, I could get the impression of what you're like and all that. You've already heard that sermon. But I'm talking from a networking perspective. Don't just add 80 more friends tonight just so you think your numbers went up. Don't just follow having more Twitter accounts just because you think, cool, then I'll look like I'm really on top of this. In fact, maybe if I have people do this to me, they'll like, I didn't know these people, I have no idea who these people are, and they'll follow me on Twitter, I think, because I look up, they have some company. I think they think I'll follow them back. And so I'll follow you guys, you all follow me, and then I'll look like I've got a big following. I don't think that really makes a lot of sense. So that's how I would approach it. Now I do say, this is the one I would highly recommend, and we'll finish with this one. You probably have a LinkedIn account, or at least most people in the 400 little classes I talk to you, yeah, so-and-so made me create it for a class or whatever. So you have it. Create it and stay on top of it. You don't have to log in every day, but you shouldn't go 3 years and go, oh yeah, man, I never even got into that. I don't even know what's still out there. Oh, it still says I'm in high school or whatever. Like, you don't want to do that. You want to make sure it's up to date. When I go into those 60 applicants, one of the first things I do is I start looking people up on this. I'm not creepily looking to see what they did on their vacation. I don't care. This isn't my stuff. This I do. Because I want to see what kind of recommendations do they have. If you ever look down at the bottom, they let you recommend people for stuff. So they're really good at sales, they're really good at cloud computing, they're really good at, whatever. Social media. Excuse me. I go to the bottom immediately because they sort them by highest to lowest number. And so what other people are saying about you in those top 3 tells me tons about you. Not that you're a good person or a bad person. It tells me you're a sales mentality, or you're a teacher, or you're a leadership person. It tells me what kind of person you are. So that's what I look for. And so I would highly recommend, get on LinkedIn, keep it formal, don't put on there what you had for dinner or where you went on vacation. Don't put a rant on there about what you thought about Trump. Go on there and keep it professional. What would you want people like me who's looking at applications to see about you professionally? What does that look like? That picture should be professional. The stuff you put on there should be. Keep it separate from everything else, in my opinion.
How important do you think it is to post articles you write or read? Or,
Good.
I mean, is it super important? Do you think people really pay attention to that? Or when employees are on there, do they care more just to see what you've done rather than what you've written, read, shared, stuff like that? Does that make sense?
So if I were hiring and you had a couple of articles out there, I would look at the articles. Because one, it tells me what kind of writer you are, and it tells me that you're a little bit aggressive because none of these bozos did an article. So I've got a little bit more about you. It just tells me more about you. Now, do I write articles every week? No, I don't do them either. But I do think if that's something you have a propensity to and you want to do, to put a post, I think it tells good things about you. I tend to less than writing, but I was actually just thinking the other day, I was thinking I probably should start writing on there. But less than writing, what I do is once in a while, I pick an article that somebody else wrote that I think is really intriguing, and I'll put a sentence or two in and post it.
And especially if you're wanting to go into a more controversial field, how much do you think, so I'm interested in politics. And I have a blog actually about it, but I really don't advertise it at all. Just because I know and I'm sure in my career I'll be talking to people that believe different things, and I'd rather them get to know me for me rather than get to know me by my articles or really, what I'm posting all over the place. So do you think it's wise to ever not censor what you put up, but do you think it's if it's something controversial, do you think it's wise to keep that more reserved for when people get to know you better, or should you just be upfront with who you are and post it?
I think you can play this 2 ways. One, I think you could go on and say, I'm going to become known as the young conservative, blah, 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 whatever it is, and I'm just going to be really good at that. That's what Fox News did when they came out.
Yeah.
There was lots of very liberal news stations, and they said, yeah, we aren't going to hide it. We're just going to be really, really conservative. And everybody went, what? And all that kind of stuff. So you could just say, that is the branding I want, and I'm going to really dig into it. Or you could do what you hinted at, is I want people to get to know me before they try to determine if I'm right. If I were doing that, I'd offer some kind of balanced conversation. So I might offer somebody else's article that's different than what I would think, and I'd go, this really made me think. But it also makes me think, what about this and this? So now I'm posing questions without being blatant, they're an idiot, type thing.
Okay. Thanks.
So, I know we're out of time. I kept you late the other day. The only thing I'll just say here is, be brave. These are learned skills, I swear to you. I can tell you stories where my knees used to shake underneath the table. I mean, true stories. I'm not very great at it now, but I've learned a lot over the years, so don't be afraid to learn. I will set, my business cards are back here. If it's of interest to anybody, you're not gonna hurt my feelings if you don't take one. But if you're interested, I am on LinkedIn, of course, and I'd be happy to connect with anybody. Thank you, have a good weekend.